Hey guys, welcome to Motor Racing Podcast on this awesome Friday edition of the Hub. Don, how you doing, bud?
Oh man, it's another lovely Friday and we got All-Star Weekend. Let's go.
Oh man, we have already started the weekend off. We had 50 minutes worth of Cup qualifying. When was the last time we had an hour worth of practice?
Probably take it back to before, I would say probably COT, maybe a little bit after
Uh, I think we stopped having them right. I think COVID is what killed it.
COVID. Okay. So before COVID hit, we still had some lengthy qualifying and practices.
Yeah, we still had 2 hours worth of practice. We had we were getting to the track, having to unload on Thursday. Um, Practice on Friday, practice on Saturday, with qualifying later on Saturday, and then the race. Unless it just depends on the schedule, then they would have practice on Friday, qualifying, and then the second practice, and then race.
Right.
Um, to me, I feel like we need to get back to an hour-long practice. These 20-minute practices, I feel like if we can have an hour-long practice, it might open up the rest of the field to be able to feel what their car is doing, and we might have some different winners. Because I think right now we've only have a total like 5 winners across 13 races right now.
Right.
Um, so, but the All-Star race is always one of those that NASCAR always does their experiments during the All-Star race, so they know they're not messing up anybody's points, their
Right.
days. Especially we'll get started the tire compound. We've got a hard compound, we got a soft compound, and then of course we have the wet weather tires, just in case we need them for this weekend.
Right.
Um, do we feel like maybe NASCAR is trying to give the drivers more options? Is this what this is doing? Because the way that the softer compound is right now at North Wilkesboro, they're only getting 51 to 55 laps on these softer compounds before they were having to put another set on.
Right.
So does that pose another problem, especially if we use that compound at a track like Dover or Bristol?
No, I think it's a good problem to have because you're getting more experience with the tires that Goodyear is bringing to the track this weekend. You can take all the information, whether you have a good weekend or a bad weekend, that's irrelevant. You can take all your notes from this weekend and use them in the future for all your teams. So I think that's a good thing. As far as the tire fall off, it's just one of those things where tire fall off is going to happen. You're going to have to come in and make a decision. So this just happens to be 55 laps is when the decision has to be made.
And on the
So
fall off right now, man, they said on the softer compound, just between lap 1 and lap 12, there's almost a 2-second fall off
oh wow.
on this softer compound, and that's insane.
Yeah.
They were just interviewing Denny Hamlin, and Denny said he said he's always taken shots at Goodyear, but both compounds they brought to the track this weekend, he said that this is the best tire that Goodyear has brought, and he doesn't know how long.
So now
He
take into consideration that they're on brand new asphalt because that's going to have an effect on tire wear. When you've got an old beat up racetrack like your Texases and your Darlingtons, they're gonna cheese grate your tires if you run hard. You got brand new asphalt. The tire is designed and the scientific studies done on Goodyear's is basically all on brand new asphalt. So they're getting the top performance out of their tire. So I'm not surprised at all that Denny's happy with the tire, and it'll be really fun to see how the guys use it this weekend.
and man, I think it's going to be an awesome race because just in practice, we've got guys that were running only 6 inches off the bottom line. Now to the track is completely rubbered from the bottom almost all the way up to the top.
Good.
We had side by side action during practice. Um, there, this race, I'm excited with this new repave. I feel like the race last year, just because okay, we did the patch job right there at the bottom. Everybody felt like that was the only place for grip, so all we had was a one-lane racetrack, and of course, we watched Kyle Larson just completely run away with it. It feels like this year, I know NASCAR has stated that with this softer compound, the entire field is going to have to start the race on the softer compound.
Yes, and I think that's a good call just so that everybody's kind of on the same page. You don't want half the field on one tire slipping and sliding all over the place for whatever reason and the other half of the field doing really well, right? It's going to mess up the integrity of the race. Make everybody start on the same thing, and then if you want to switch, that's on you and your team.
So I mean, with practice, so if everybody's starting on the compound, okay, and we've got wet weather tires ready, these guys didn't practice on wet weather tires. So with rain in the area for this weekend, do you feel like, I know if it rains and if they run on a wet racetrack, they're going to get a green racetrack, but obviously the compound isn't going to be the same between the white lettered sticker tires and the softer red letter compound sticker tires. Um, does that throw a wrench in everybody's day?
Absolutely. Any kind of variable change like that, you got to be prepared for. You got to be ready for. That's the beauty of being at the top level of your profession. You and your team have to be ready for those variable changes when they're thrown at you. Now, the good thing is they're all professionals. They've all got experience on um, rain tires as far as they ran them at Coda back in 21. They've run them a couple other times outside of that. And I think the drivers know really well how to manage those tires. And when the track starts to dry, you actually start seeing them seeking out some of the wetter spots because it helps keep the tires cooler. I think that's an interesting thing where normally the guys are like, "Where's the dry spot on the track?" But not when they got their wet tires on. They're like, "No, give me the wet section because
And
I
to
can
me,
move."
that makes it so much better because as the racing line, the preferred line is going to dry up because that's where everybody wants to run. When that dries up and everybody wants their tires to stay cool, everybody's going low or high, finding that they're a different racing groove, trying to make different things work.
Right.
And to me, like, when those things happen, we can definitely tell the men from the boys of the sport,
Right.
because we can have a group of guys running up front because they've got fast cars on slicks and in the dry. But these guys, here comes Jordan, the guys that are running on wet weather tires and searching for out of the groove, those guys running up towards the front, I feel like that makes for the race to be a little more interesting.
Absolutely. Anything that changes up what the drivers have to do and takes them out of their comfort zones is 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 always entertaining from the fan aspect. If you don't like it, don't watch. You know what I mean? Right. Right.
What are we talking
And
about, gentlemen?
I think we're starting to get I'm starting to get my point across with some of these pages that we're on and people crying all the time. It's kind of backing off a little bit more and more here the last few weeks. At least on some of the pages I follow.
So with what's going on, looking back at last year's All-Star race, do you feel like because of the repave, do these teams bring the notes in from last year, or does everybody come back in with a clean slate?
No. Bring your notes. Bring everything that you learned from last year. It's the only thing you have to go off of. They haven't been in North Wilkesboro for ages. Bring your notes and then use that. What was it? A 50-minute practice you were talking about?
Yeah.
Take every single minute you can get from that, utilize it to your advantage, and then take the notes that you got from last year and utilize whatever you can from that. There's never a bad note to take. It's just something you don't need at all times, right?
Yeah. So, when we think of the All-Star race, when we're talking, and we think of likes of Kyle Petty, Dale Earnhardt, those guys. Nowadays, especially with this next gen car, what drivers do we feel? I know Kyle Larson's going to be at the top of the list. What drivers do we feel are the ones that we need to watch for these races that we expect to be up front, expect to win this race?
This race specifically, talking about
What's up, guys?
Hey, Jordan.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, not a whole lot. To answer your question, Kevin, I gotta say up there is Chris Buescher and Tyler Reddick.
Okay, so some of those names. So,
That's
like
what I
me
would
and Don
say.
were talking about, the lanes on the racetrack from practice have opened up from running 6 inches off the bottom almost all the way to the top. So do those dirt guys like Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick and Ricky Stenhouse, is that third and last lane going to open up to we're going to see guys running right off the wall at a short track?
That's a good question. That's a real good question.
Because the way that it's going right now, like I said, I've got qualifying going right now. Everybody is searching where there's no rubber because the rubber is making everybody slip and slide, whether they're on the softer or their hotter compound. So everybody's searching for fresh pavement. So what does that do to the race and everybody's lap times or the way that everybody races everybody?
Right. That's a real good question.
You stumped Jordan, man. You're not supposed to stump Jordan.
Hey,
You're not supposed to stump me, bruh. I heard both of you. No, I'm just
hey,
joking. You guys go ahead and talk. I'm trying to
Kyle
find
Busch,
the.
I have to ask the hard question.
I'm looking for today's speeds from Indianapolis. You guys got to continue to talk. When I find it, I'll come back on. All right.
Okay, mute your mic, buddy. You're getting a little bit of feedback. So with the All-Star race, I know they just did All-Star Open qualifying, which was a 2-lap run to see how that's going to pan out. Have they set how they're going to do qualifying for the actual All-Star race? Because I know a couple years ago at Texas, they did the side-by-side pit crew challenge, and then, they had to race back to the line. When the race was still at Charlotte, we had that, you did your warm-up lap, came around, hit pit road as fast as you could, did a 4-tire stop, and had to race back to the line. So have they announced how the format's going to be for qualifying tonight?
I haven't heard anything leaked yet, but we can look it up right now for all of our listeners.
Because they keep saying something about a pit stop challenge. So,
right.
like I said, I don't know if they're referring back to the way they did it at Charlotte or if they're going back to the way that they did it at Texas.
That's a great question. I think you stumped me too, man. Let's see what we can. And I'm not finding anything online, so it's not surprising that we don't really know much. Is it something that they're gonna kind of surprise everybody with?
It could be. Like I said, they keep saying pit stop challenge for all the pit crews. So I'm not particularly sure. They haven't gone into detail or anything about it. The Air Titans are still out on track right now.
Right. Throw mine on real quick. That's a really good question, and this is what's going to be beneficial when we start having a live feed with our listeners, so that they can, as they're typing answers that we're not sure of, that's going to be really helpful, because it's kind of interesting being stumped right now. I'm not used to this.
So with the teams right now, so Cliff Daniels and Kevin Harvick, man, the in-car footage and the radio that I'm getting, oh my God. I would say that Cliff Daniels is obviously he's a fit for Kyle Larson. But I would honestly say if they would have swapped out Rodney Childers with Cliff Daniels, Kevin Harvick, the way that they're able to relay information to each other, Kevin Harvick might have 2 more championships and maybe 10 more wins under his belt.
So you're saying if he had a different crew chief above him, that, and we can say that about any driver, right? Like,
yeah, definitely.
If so-and-so had so-and-so, then they could have had 5 more championships. It's all the hearsay and opinion filled, and there's nothing to refute it. Like, if somebody has a better crew chief, chances are they're probably going to finish better in the standings. So yeah, I think if he had somebody like Cliff Daniels, Kyle Larson, the 5-car, and Hendrick, if he had somebody like that in his ear every single weekend, yeah, there's no doubt that he'd probably rattle off a couple more championships.
Well, see, and the interesting thing is you look at Kyle Larson, we consider him to be starting to hit that veteran status, right?
Right, absolutely. Especially being on a second team, and he's been on this team for 4 years now.
Yeah, I think he's with Chip Ganassi from 2014 or 2015 up until, what was it, right before COVID or right during? No, during COVID is when all that stuff happened, wasn't it?
COVID is when he got let go for the incident, and then Hendrick picked him up. I mean, he did his management classes and his sensitivity training, which I think is important for some people. If you're letting stuff like that slip on live air, maybe there's a couple courses that you can take to kind of help keep those comments at bay, right? Like,
especially when you're in a big sport and in the spotlight like Kyle Larson is. He's representing not just himself and his family, but he's representing Hendrick Motorsports, Chevrolet, HendrickCars.com, Valvoline, all those sponsors, including Ally and Napa and all those guys.
Right.
So when you're at the top of your game, that's a big deal, because we saw just how quick all of that stuff could be taken away.
I mean, you're talking like that, dude.
Within 16 hours, Kyle Larson lost his deal with Chevrolet, lost his sponsors, and then was fired. And then NASCAR suspended him all within 16 hours. So
how you get fired on your day off, bro? Jordan, we got feedback.
Right. Speaking of which, I'm getting ready to say something. Of Kyle Larson, of practice number 5 for the Indy. Kyle Larson finishes P2 and Colton Herta was 2:34. He completed 34 laps. Colton Herta completed 24. His top speed was 2:34. Herta and Kyle Larson will be the drivers to watch in qualifying tomorrow. Justin Newgarden was 3rd. Scott McLaughlin was 4th. Alexander Rossi 5th. Will Power was 6th. Pato O'Ward was 7th. Kyle Kirkwood was 8th. Takuma Sato, 2-time Indy 500 winner, was 9th. He actually won the 500 in 2017 when I was there.
okay.
Right on. What we're not expecting. Oh no, they have another practice next week, right? Indy, Jordan, talk to me, bud.
He will miss the All-Star race on Saturday.
Kyle Larson.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is set. He will miss the All-Star race.
Yeah, they decided that last week.
Yeah, so he's going to miss the heat races tomorrow. But if Kyle qualifies in 9, he'll be in the Fast 9 on Sunday, qualifying for the pool for the 500. So therefore, he would miss the All-Star race.
So if he doesn't qualify within that top 9, we can definitely. We know that we'll see Kyle Larson in the All-Star.
He would definitely.
I'm excited to see Kevin Harvick.
That is correct.
Kevin Harvick in that 5 car, man, I would be.
Hey, it's going to be good.
Kevin Harvick in that 5 car, to see him win in a
Kevin Harvick said Kevin Harvick said that it's nice to lost twice a week.
I knew that was going to happen. It's all you, Jordan.
Oh, so back to so of the 34. So when it comes to qualifying tomorrow for Indy, only one person will go home for the field of 33. There's 34 cars, so it's not like back in the day where you had bump day where you had like 40 plus drivers trying to fill 33 spots. So it's going to be very interesting tomorrow, but I think Kyle Larson has a good shot at winning the pole for the 500.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
He's shown a lot of speed. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Kevin. He's shown a lot of speed, and man, he is. What else do we say? Kyle Larson can drive anything with wheels, and probably most things without wheels. Like it's getting absurd at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I was treated to get to see him race at Texas Motor Speedway, his qualifying and his practice on Saturday. And then Saturday night, got to watch him run sprint cars with Casey Kane and them boys. And then on Sunday, got to watch him race the Cup race. Like, I was treated to a Kyle Larson fest that weekend. I'm not even a Kyle Larson fan, but I love watching him race.
And it's awesome because, the last year that they did Bristol Dirt, the videos that I sent you boys from the dirt track from the other night, they had the Kyle Larson's Flow Racing 10,000 where they had the purse was a $50,000 purse.
Nice.
And the racing started at like 6:00 and I didn't leave there till 11:30. So, I mean, we got pit passes. Chase Briscoe, Kyle Busch, and Kyle Larson were all racing in the field that night. And just to watch the cojones that Kyle Larson's got, the way that he runs up against the wall, I've never seen, coming back to that dirt track or any dirt track for that matter, I've not watched anybody get as high as Larson does. To the point Larson bit in a fender running the wall, rubbing the wall around the top, and just taking off and checking out, man. And it's awesome. He's a down to earth guy that sat there and talked to all the fans, signed autographs, took pictures, like just a normal human being, and then got out on the racetrack and just showcased his talent out there, including with 2 other NASCAR regulars. So, I mean, you got dirt guys like Jonathan Davenport, who was out there in the field racing with Kyle Larson. He's just a hoot to watch race. It doesn't matter what he gets in. It could be those sprint cars. It could be a late model or super late model dirt car, the Cup Series car, trucks, whatever. When Kyle Larson's name is announced to be behind the wheel of something and you show up, you always expect a treat and expect a show.
And to elaborate on that, we didn't even mention some of the technical stuff, the stuff we see with our eyes, but his throttle control when he is manipulating those race cars around whatever racetrack he's working on. I am mind blown, and I love watching him. It's been a treat to meet him and get a few things signed for some of my buddies. I don't have anything Kyle Larson, but I love watching him race. His timing, his throttle control, the way he puts the race car where he wants it. He doesn't let that race car put him somewhere. He controls that machine. And if you ever get a chance to watch him race in person, pay attention, man. He's hitting the lines that we've really not seen a lot of people pull off.
And with flow racing, man, that night I've watched a couple of things he's raced in. They've had a camera down there on his feet talking about throttle control. Man, the way that he feathers the throttle between the clutch, the brake, and just the gas, and you can hear it just through all the way.
Favorite. I love hearing it. I love it.
Yeah, and it's just insane because he can get completely sideways where that wheel is cocked all the way to the right, and you think it's going around. And that's his thing. Just right off the corner. Oh, crap, he's going to hit the inside wall. Nope, right off the corner, down the straightaway.
And
like this man.
And to elaborate on that, somebody else that's really good at that is Tyler Reddick. He does not get enough credit on the amount of race cars that he has saved going 180 miles an hour. Last year at Darlington, last year at Charlotte, both times had that car sideways and drove right out of it. Just beautiful. Love it.
And Ricky Stenhouse also. I've watched Ricky race. He's one of those dirt racers out there, man. If you get to go watch Ricky dirt race, you are in for a show and in for a treat, man. A lot of people are like, well, he didn't do NASCAR and he don't deserve a cup ride, blah, blah, blah. It's grassroots racing, man. He may not be as good at the Cup Series as he is the dirt track. But if you get to go to your local dirt track and watch these big guys race, and I guarantee when you guys watch what they do, you'll have a little more respect for them and what they do on Sunday.
Absolutely.
Because those dirt cars, they weigh 1,800, 2,000 pounds, and these cup cars are almost 4,000 pounds cup cars.
What are they sitting at curb weight? Is like 37 now? 3,700?
Yeah, 37 or 38. And I mean, when you're coming around the corner, at Darlington on the wall with a car and a racetrack where you're going to be, it's like skating on ice.
Right.
The throttle control, the handling of the race car, like these. Christopher Bell is another one, man. If you ever get to watch him race, especially, I love watching him race the Chili Bowl and the Tulsa Shootout.
Yeah.
In the micro sprints. You guys have got to sit and watch, and it's more than turning a wheel and letting in and out of the gas. And then when they get in these big old cars on Sunday, there is a lot more discipline that has to go into that because they weigh 2 or 3 times more than what these guys are used to racing at on Saturday nights.
Right.
And when these guys are sideways and they can catch those cars and just keep on going like nothing's ever happened, that takes a lot of discipline, a lot of strength, and deserves a lot of respect.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jordan.
So this weekend not only do we have NASCAR All-Star Race in the Truck Series, we also have Formula 1, Formula 2, and down in Imola. It is also the 30th anniversary past 2 drivers that died in '94 alongside. There was two drivers that was killed. 94 Imola Grand Prix weekend. Was it Ayrton Senna? But it was also another driver by the name of Rottenberg, I believe was the name. It is the 30th anniversary of both of their drivers of those deaths. So Formula One is doing a special ceremony this weekend in Imola for that. As far as practice 1 or practice 2 is gone, Max Verstappen has not been the top of the charts at all. He hasn't even been in the top 5. So do we finally see somebody defeating Max Verstappen on a Formula One weekend? That is the big question. So
he's gonna gain spots if he. Do we have qualifying yet? We don't have the qualifying results, right?
qualifying is not in 11. About 11 hours is practice number 3, and then followed by that would be qualifying. So qualifying would not be until tomorrow.
Well,
So
see,
he could still qualify on the pole, and we'd be right back where we were 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, whatever it was.
yeah,
That is
so
true.
with Formula One, because you have
That is true.
race trim that they practice in, and then you have to go over to Q trim for qualifying. There's a lot of things that happen with the way the wings are set up. The fins on the back, just different types of things that go with Formula One. It'd be fast in practice and qualify like shit, but with Formula One, Don, we were just talking about this the other night. You can't touch. There's a lot more oomph that goes into Formula One because it's a no contact racing sport. Because the slightest contact, the slightest contact, you break a tire rod, fins are gone, the nose is bent up, broke. It takes a lot more discipline and a lot more to drive with a lot more respect with these things. So you can't just put the pedal to the metal and expect to go to the front.
Right.
So I feel like even if Max is fast in practice, if he qualifies like crap, I feel like Max Verstappen could be defeated this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. He could be defeated. Do I expect him to not qualify well? No. I think he's going to be just fine. I think he's going to put that Red Bull car where it needs to be. He's always got that team in good position to win, even if he doesn't happen to qualify well. Can he be beat? Absolutely. If he just goes out there and has a crap qualifying and a rough practice, yeah, absolutely. He's beatable. Maybe it turns into a mental thing where he's been so used to dominating for X amount of years. I think he's going on 3 straight championships now.
Yeah.
And so, at some point it's got to come down. Not everybody wins 3, not everybody wins 1, right? So at some point it stops happening and the competition catches up and you're, left trying to, borderline chasing windmills. You're not getting anywhere. Do I think Max is going through that? No, he's with the best team in Formula One. He's got the best equipment. He's got the best mechanics and engineers in that garage. So just expect him to be top 3, top 2, probably win. Who knows?
Man, I can only hope that Lewis Hamilton hurries up and pulls his head out of his ass and does something soon.
Right.
Because the slump that Lewis Hamilton has been in this season alone is just not like what we're used to seeing out of Lewis Hamilton. We're always used to seeing Lewis qualify up towards the front, have fast practice times, be one of those ones that to be there at the end, even if it is just a podium finish and it's not the win, we're normally used to seeing Lewis Hamilton on the podium, and we haven't seen a lot of that at all this season. Is there? I know it's really not a new team. Do we know, or can we assess what's going on, or maybe what's maybe going on, or what's maybe going wrong?
I think you get into situations where not everything is in your control as much as you want it to be. So even though Lewis Hamilton is still a very gifted and talented driver, I think the competition caught up to him, and I think he is struggling to reciprocate and catch back up to the competition. So it's one of those things where he had his moment in the lights, he's had his shine and his championships, but now everybody else is steps above that, and so it's not necessarily anything that Lewis is doing wrong; it's what other people are doing right.
So do we feel like maybe Lewis is falling behind a little bit, or is he on the backside, that descent on the backside of his career now?
It could be a little bit of both. I definitely think, and the same thing I said with Max. You eventually it comes to an end. Eventually you stop winning. Eventually you're no longer that guy on the podium every week, right? Like, so I think that's just what we're experiencing. And I think as time goes on, and boy, does time go by fast. All the drivers that we got to enjoy dominate the sports that we love so much, they're not doing it as much as they used to. And the other day I referenced basketball. Timmy Duncan from the Spurs. Loved watching him as a kid. And then I realized I just watched him play 19 years of basketball. And then he's been retired for 8 years. It's been 8 years since Tim Duncan retired. So, it got to a point where he stopped winning his championships and his play got declined and eventually he retires. I don't know when Lewis is going to retire. I don't know if it's getting to that point, and then it goes into the mental aspect too. All these guys are human, all the wear and tear on your body, all the traveling, all the time away from your family, the times you are away from your family, the missed holidays, the missed this, the missed that, that catches up to a man or woman if that's the case. And that could be one of the things that's kind of getting on his mind, where he misses a lot of the stuff that he used to do when he wasn't racing full time. So it could be a combination of things. It could be the decline. It could be the competition's passed him up. Just what I think we need to be grateful for is that we got to watch Lewis Hamilton race and watch him race at the top level like he did.
Man, Lewis Hamilton, no disrespect towards there. The man has accomplished a lot in his career
Right.
with the teams that he has raced for. And to be able to be one of the only, how do I put this without getting canceled, African American drivers in F1.
Right.
I would almost refer to him as maybe F1's Bubba Wallace.
Okay.
Just because I know that he had his doubters in the beginning. And then when he started going out there and signed with these big teams and started winning championships and started winning those races, it was almost, maybe and you could be right. It could be a number of those things between missed holidays, families, being tired from all the jet lag and driving everywhere and
It
all
takes its
this.
toll.
It does. And, a man or woman can only take so much. And, if Lewis decided to retire at the end of the season, I think he would retire on a high note.
Yeah.
And
And
he had a slump.
maybe it's better. Maybe it's better to retire when you're still performing decently rather than getting to a point where, and not to name drop on Jimmy Johnson, because I respect Jimmy and what he's accomplished, but he didn't have the greatest exit, right? Like his best memory was probably pushing Chase Elliott to his first win. So, or to celebrate his first win.
So we'll jump over the truck series. I know we haven't had practice or qualifying just yet. But going on from last year, we watched William Byron dominate this race last year. We have to throw in, again, the new factor, brand new repave. The lanes, the racing grooves, the racing lanes, tires are changing. Different drivers are with different teams now. So, but with it being a Kyle Busch Motorsports truck now being owned by Spire, those notes being brought back to the track, do we expect maybe Spire Motorsports to practice fast and qualify up front and possibly win or, get a 1-2-3 finish?
I think we see everybody qualify fast. I think it's going to be a super racy track. I think that everybody has a really good shot. The trucks are doing they're doing a points race, right? They're not in all-star mode this weekend.
No, they're not in all-star mode.
So they're doing trucks at Wilkesboro. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you look for your short track guys, right? Your Christian Eckes, like, I expect him to probably have a really good weekend. Do we know their start times by chance?
That I could actually have the NASCAR app looking at me in the face right now. Hold on.
Hit me with that. And you're talking about Corey Heim is riding a high right now, and he just got his golden ticket to
Oh,
20.
excuse me. They did have one practice, and that was at
Okay.
3:00 this afternoon. Brendan Queen in the number one truck with the fastest on the board. With no surprise, Corey Heim right behind him.
Yeah, no
With
surprise.
Tanner Gray, Bailey Curry, Ty Majeski rounding out your top five. Taylor Gray, Jack Wood, Dean Thompson, Nick Sanchez, and Chase Purdy with Spire Motorsports rounding out your top 10. And it looks like there's literally a tenth or 2/10 of a second between each truck's lap times. So it looks like everybody's running almost like you predicted, fast lap times,
Right.
and pretty close together. So we just got to see who's going to trick their ride out just enough and trim it out, because I know we have to go to qualifying trim. But to see who's going to get that adjustment right and who's going to be at the front of the field. I mean, who are the ones to watch this weekend?
It's going to
for
be
trucks?
you're obviously right off the bat, your top 10, you listed them, man. Like, why go against the green on that? And then the only one, which is interesting, before we got that list, I mentioned Christian Eckes, and he didn't make that top 10 list. So that's really
Not even in the top 15.
right. So that's going to be really, really fun to see how he manages this weekend and how he gets back on track.
And I know the one guy who's going to have the same sponsor and pretty much the same truck in the notes that William Byron had with the truck last year, and that's Rajah Caruth. Obviously, I know between Rajah and William Byron's, they're two different driving styles. Just because the truck that William had was fast for him doesn't necessarily mean that's going to fit Rajah. Right. That truck could be hella slow with William Byron's setup.
Right.
So, I mean, but with the notes they can say, okay, we're going to set it up not completely this way, but not completely. We're going to start in the middle, and you tell us what's wrong, what's right, and we'll go either direction with it.
Right. And then that's going to be something on Rajah that he's going to have to figure out as the race goes on.
And Rajah's already got one win at Vegas this year on a mile and a half.
So he can be a little bit more aggressive with his decision making and soaking his crew chief.
And I feel like that's what they've been doing with the short track races. I mean, you saw Bristol, Martinsville. Now we've got North Wilkesboro. They've got that win sticker on the side of the truck. They're in the playoffs. How aggressive? Because if I'm not mistaken, this is the last short track that we go to until Iowa. In next month, or is it July? Either way. So how aggressive do they get with the setup tonight?
Get super aggressive. Why not? Like, why tiptoe around things when you can accomplish things? Go find out what works. Go find out what doesn't work. Get it out of the way. We're getting into the real meat of the season. Like, this is where we start separating the contenders with the not contenders. Why are you not going to be more aggressive and utilize the regular season the way it should be utilized? Absolutely be more aggressive. Get after it.
And as a crew chief and a driver, getting more aggressive, whether it's tire changes or chassis adjustments or whether it's wedge, shocks, whatever. The way that you qualify, obviously, we've got that win sticker on the side of the truck. Do you decide on how aggressive you get depending on where you qualify?
Yeah, absolutely. That's all the variable change that we talked about earlier in the show. You're going to get information as the weekend goes on. Utilize the information that you get. It's free information. You might as well use it and utilize it to make your best decision possible. And then start throwing curveballs at people. You got that win sticker on your truck. Flip one of those stages, right? Come in pit early on one of these stages and throw everybody for a loop. Like, why is the 17 in the pit or the 71 in his pits already? Catch everybody off guard, So I think they can make moves like that. Do I think they will? I don't know. Let's watch and find out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited because, you have those guys out there out front, like Christian Edkis and these guys at Spire, these guys at Thor Sport and Tricon Garage.
Tricon, yep.
Corey Heim over at Tricon, man. Corey Heim is always going to be one of those ones that's in the conversation every single week. And it's because this kid is so damn good. It doesn't matter what you put. So look at him in behind the wheel of the ARCA. So he wins the ARCA Series Championship last year.
Yep.
Gets that part-time ride at Kyle Busch Motorsports and gets 3 wins in his 5 first truck starts. I mean, that right there should have put the entire truck series on notice. And then you got him at North Wilkesboro at a short track where we know this kid is dangerous, especially on a repave where you're not just on a 1-lane racetrack anymore.
And he's riding a ton of confidence, man. That he just got his golden ticket with 2311. He's going to be racing that 5-0 car.
Oh yeah, and man, I'm excited to see. It would not honestly surprise me if 2311 announced during the season or after the season, hey, we're going to a 3rd full-time charter. Corey Heim's our guy. It would not surprise me one bit.
Yep.
Yeah,
you might as well jump on that before he gets into Gibbs. You don't want him going to a rival Toyota.
Oh, hell no.
You're going to have to deal with that for the rest of, man.
And we definitely want to see him in some decent equipment because we see what he can do in legacy equipment.
Right.
Granted, with the next gen car, everybody is pretty much on a even playing field. Everybody's got the same parts. Everybody's got everything, but it seems, even though it's level all the way around, we still see our big teams: Hendrick Motorsports, Penske, Joe Gibbs Racing. Those 3, RFK for the last season and a half.
Right.
Up front dominating, and we still have yet to see Spire up there to win a race unless it's Carson Hocevar up there in the top 5.
Well, usually if Carson's up there in that 77, it's because half the field got in an accident and they're putting along. I mean, Carson is an incredibly gifted driver, but in the Cup Series, he's also shown a lot of talent. But usually when he starts making his way towards the front, there have been incidences that kind of shuffled him up there, right?
Yeah. Like I said, he's had a couple decent runs. The Bristol Night Race being one of those where he filled in at Legacy for Noah Gregson after he lost his ride over there with a 4th place finish at Bristol Motor Speedway in this new car.
Yep.
And rattling off a top 10, a couple top 15s with Legacy in a Chevrolet. So Carson's another one of those guys that, with the All-Star Open, he was pretty fast in practice. So I wouldn't count that kid out either.
Right.
And with the All-Star race going on this weekend, there's a lot on the line. It's a non-points paying race, and these guys are going to just throw caution to the wind.
Yep.
We're going to see aggressive pit calls like we've never seen before, whether it's 4 tires, 2 tires, in the speed, how far these guys are going to send this car into the corner, where they're going to downshift, where they're going to upshift, what lane they're going to run, how far, that arc into the corner. Everybody's going to start playing around with this because we already know, NASCAR announced earlier today, we're already going to be back here at North Wilkesboro for the All-Star race in 2025.
Correct.
So with the repave, right now is the time to go ahead and, okay, we're out here to fight for $1 million, but we're going to, like you said, we're going to get aggressive as hell.
Yep.
And we're going to go out here and let everybody know we're here to fight and we're not here to be played with.
Right.
So the All-Star race is one of those that I feel like every year, especially since it's returned, look at Bristol. Even during a worldwide pandemic, the All-Star race, just the hype and the energy that race produced.
Yep.
Not having a second lane, Bristol only being that bottom lane, at the end, traffic getting stacked up, Kyle Busch going right up and around him on the top, and then chasing Chase Elliott for 20 laps, trying to win that $1 million, and then we got North Wilkesboro on a new repave last year. I know there was a lot of people that were disappointed after the race just because they felt like it was the Clash had more excitement than the All-Star.
Well, I enjoyed last year's race, right? So where does NASCAR take their opinions from? So it's one of those, do we just get over it and move on, or it's so hard to gauge?
I feel like the viewers, as far as they can see how many viewers they've got, and depending on the race, if it's being shut off a quarter of the way through, halfway through or whatever, or they just don't have the viewers to begin with to start the race. NASCAR takes that and says, okay, what do we need to change? And then they get on social media. They ask the fans, hey, what do you want to see? What do we need to do? Which I don't feel like does any good, because we just got announced that Phoenix will be hosting the championship race in 2025.
Right.
NASCAR needs to move that race. Don't get me wrong. I love watching the racing at Phoenix. I think it produces pretty good race.
Right.
But I don't feel like it produces a championship caliber race.
Correct.
And this will be, so 21. Next year will be year 4 it's been there.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? No, because Chase won. No, 2020 is when Chase won the title, wasn't it?
2020, I think, is.
So okay, so the next year will be year 5. So I think it's time for it to go back to Miami, or let's find another spot for it.
Or at least let's look into it and find out why they went back to Phoenix, because sometimes I don't think we're ever asking the right questions. We're always so quick to say it's not good there, or the fans say it's not good there. Why are they having it there? But we haven't actually heard from NASCAR or their representatives why they continue to go back there. So it'd be interesting to kind of figure out where they're coming from, why they're making. It's not just a lazy decision. They're doing it for a reason. There's got to be a reason.
Oh yeah, I feel like it's got to be money market. For us fans that don't feel like, that it's capable of hosting a championship caliber race, and so far it hasn't produced one, in my opinion. But camping is sold out. The infield is sold out. Grandstands are sold out months in advance.
Right.
And I feel like, they didn't get that with Miami in the last 6 or 7 years that Miami hosted that. So I feel like that's why NASCAR said, okay, we have to move this to try something different. But after year 5, you still have, and you're always going to have those fans that complain. Me, like I said, it's a championship race. I don't care. I'm going to turn it on and watch it just to see who the hell wins the Cup title.
Right.
And who knows, this year, because of how the racing has been all year, this might be the first year where we say, hell yeah, I'm excited for Phoenix to come back next year.
Right. I mean, I'm pretty excited for the playoffs. I ain't going to lie.
And I know. And I mean, we still have 1, 2, 3, almost 4 months still to go before we even hit the playoffs, man. And the way that this season is played out, it just makes me want to fast forward through the season to the first week of the playoffs.
Right.
So
finding out who's going to be in and who's going to be out and by how much and the cut line, like that stuff gets exciting, man.
Because we had 14 or 15 different winners last year. And we thought there for a minute that we were going to have like 17 different winners, and NASCAR was going to figure out who the hell makes the championship, or who the hell makes the playoffs.
When there's more winners than playoff spots.
Yeah, and this year we only have 5 winners through 13 races.
Yeah.
So, and that's new considering, with the finishes that we had. You look back in Atlanta, back at Kansas, held Darlington last week. That was a hell of a race. Moving forward, we have, a repaved Sonoma that could post an outcome that nobody and their mother could have seen in a million years. We have new track. We have Iowa on the schedule. You still have a hot, slick concrete Nashville in the dead heat of the summer that we're still, that since we've had nothing but calamity. Drivers backing at the wall there in turn 4. I mean, I'm excited to what this summer is going to produce, especially Pocono with this new,
gonna be awesome.
With this new tire compound that Goodyear's got. I feel like the racing is going to spread out. It's going to be faster. It's going to be more spread out. I haven't been disappointed yet. I feel like the Daytona 500 has been my only disappointment this season.
Right.
And it had some good moments and had some dicey moments, but I feel like the 500 didn't live up to what the 500 is.
And that was a lot to do with everybody figuring out the fuel saving aspect of racing, and that really it took its toll on the product. And I think NASCAR is going to make sure they're going to make sure to tell the drivers and the crew chiefs, hey, cut that shit out. Like race the damn cars.
Well, and I feel like, that going forward, like what we talked about, screw the fuel saving, and the cautions, throw them out.
Yeah.
Let them develop naturally. Award the stage points. Let's get that intense racing in, with 3 or 4 laps to go till we award stage points, and then do what everybody else does. All the Fords pit with the Fords, Chevys, the green flag stops. Let's see. There's not very often here in the last couple of years that we've seen 4-tire green flag stops at a super speedway.
Right.
Because it's all fuel, and everybody wants to save. And to me, that's completely, besides Atlanta, that's completely killed the super speedway aspect.
Right.
But going on, man, let's get predictions in. Don, where do you feel this weekend?
That's a great question. And Jordan actually messaged us his predictions. He's having some technical issues, so we're going to go ahead and put his predictions out there.
Yeah.
His fan for All-Star vote, the person he's been voting for, and we can talk about yours and mine too. He's been voting for Bubba Wallace as his fan vote. Since Bubba doesn't have a win this year or last year, he doesn't qualify for the All-Star race. All-Star winner, his prediction will be Tyler Reddick in the Monster Energy Toyota 45 car. That's an interesting pick. Tyler's been racing really, really well. We'll see how that plays out. His All-Star Open to make the actual race, Austin Cindric, and we know Jordan's a Cindric fan, so it doesn't surprise me that's who he's choosing for that one. Trucks, he chooses Corey Heim. ARCA East, he's going to go with Colton Collins and F1 Sergio Perez. So that'll clean up Jordan's predictions. Bud, sorry you couldn't join us for the rest of the show. We'll make sure and get your technical stuff figured out so that we can get you to the end of the show with us.
Yeah, we definitely might have to do some pre-run shows during the weekend or maybe something like that, so we can figure out maybe where the technical difficulties are coming in on his end, and we might be able to fix them for later on in the week
or the future, for that matter.
Yeah. Don, what about you, bud?
You know what? For the trucks, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dark horse this one, especially since he's not doing well. I think he'll flip that switch, and I think Christian Eckes might make a splash this weekend. What about you? Who you got for the trucks?
Man, I want to say Corey, because 9 times out of 10, who is it? I've still got to keep sticking with Rajah, man. He's holding his head up. He's getting those runs. He's getting those results in. Maybe not as many wins as he wants to. Spire Motorsports as a whole, I feel like, has been turned around. They have 2 trucks in the top 10 as far as practice goes already. So I'm going to go with Rajah Caruth in that 71 HendrickCars.com truck.
That's a great pick. I love it. Let's see. Who do we got for who you been voting for?
Vote for. So mine definitely went to Noah Gragson.
Noah, nice.
And that's just because I've been following Noah, through his super late model or asphalt days. When Kyle signed him, I remember watching his very first full-time race he did with Kyle, or full-time truck he did. He won at Martinsville, first time in a truck. So, and then from there on, the rest is history. We saw what he did in Xfinity with Junior Motorsports. Yet to have a winning cup. Now that he's in some halfway decent equipment over at Stewart-Haas, it's not if, but when with Noah Gragson.
Absolutely. And it seems like Haas is kind of turning a little bit of a corner, which is really weird since they're selling off their stuff, but maybe the drivers are all racing with a bigger passion for the team since it's kind of a couple cars or a couple charters are being sold out of there. So
yeah, just to make sure that they've got a definite ride for next year and maybe still within the same seat or the same car.
Right.
But yeah, definitely my fan vote would have to be Noah Gragson.
And I love it.
And if he doesn't get voted in, I honestly don't think he's going to have to be voted in. I think one of the 3 stages that they need to win to be able to get into the All-Star, Noah will win one of those 3 stages.
Yeah, why not? He's too talented not to. I love watching him race. I love how his career kind of turned his own little cornerstone where he put his head down and went to work, so to speak.
After Ross punched him in the mouth, his career.
Who knows? That might have been a good punch for him. A little bit of self-evaluation, if you will.
And I feel like in that incident, not saying that Noah was in the right, but I feel like because of what Ross was doing at the time, because of all the problems and all the enemies he had made, um, I think Noah felt like he needed to stand up because a lot of people weren't standing up to Ross. Now, do I agree with the portion of him grabbing him into that point? No. Um, but Noah has always been a hothead, and Noah's always been one of those guys that voices his opinion, and he doesn't care who it pisses off.
Right.
And I like that attitude about Noah, because to be a race car driver, you have to be selfish out on the racetrack.
Yep.
And that's just what stuck with me for him.
And Noah was known to be a very, very hot head when he was in Xfinity. He was winning races with that mentality. So I think he thought if he brought that same mindset into Cup, it was going to produce the same results. And he quickly learned that was not the case. And ever since he's really laser focused, ever since that incident with Ross at Kansas last year, I think Noah took a moment, took a step back, and was like, all right, clearly I'm not doing something right. So I need to.
Don't mean to interrupt you, bud. Breaking news: Texas Motor Speedway president has passed away.
Yeah, I saw that, man. That's great.
They were just doing a memoriam for him. It said breaking news in memoriam for I don't want to butcher his name.
It is Eddie Gossage, I believe.
Yeah, I didn't want to. I'll let you attempt that. That's your home track. You know more than I do.
Yeah, he did a lot of great things. I was reading through some of the comments, and man, he touched a lot of people in such a positive way. It's really sad to see something like that happen. Well, I mean, there's no right thing. There's no right way to talk about or address stuff like this. It's just hope that it was peaceful, and his family in our thoughts, of course.
Well, what about Arca? Because I'm gonna have to go with Jordan on that one. Colton Collins, he's one of our local guys. He's in our group chat. He's a kid that's just trying to make and put his name out there and make a living for himself. And Colton is a hell of a wheelman. So when it comes to the Arca series, that's going to be my pick this weekend too.
Okay, right on. I love it. Can't argue, Colt. It's results speak for themselves, man. Like, just call it what it is. Where are they at? I missed that.
Oh, I just saw it. Lord have mercy.
Arca.
Oh, you might have it quicker than I do.
I got my phone up.
I'm watching Kyle Petty talk.
Flat Rock Speedway.
There you go. That's it.
Okay. Dutch
I'm not
150.
sure where that is, but
that is. Wow, they really don't give you a lot of information, do they?
not really. Not on the ARCA series, though. They'll let you know who the driver is, who they race for, car number, and where they're going, and that's pretty much about it.
Right. Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
As far as your Formula One, Jordan's got Sergio Perez. I might have to go with give me Max, because I don't bet against that dude right now.
Yeah, I might have to go put a $50 bet out there on Max.
Right.
No, I'm just gonna have to stick with my boy Lewis Hamilton. Like through and through, man. As much as the slump, the racing slump that guy's in right now. Hopefully this weekend, even if we don't get a win, hopefully we get a podium, and this is the week that he starts to come out of it. Because we still have another whole half a season for Formula One to go. Because is that they have 25 races a year or something like that?
Yeah, I think that's right up that.
So
yeah.
we're about right there at halfway. So I still feel like that Lewis Hamilton's got enough time to be able to get those podium finishes and maybe 2 or 3 wins in the books by the end of the season.
Right on. I love it. All right, give me your Xfinity. Nope, we're on Xfinity. That's my bad. Give me your All-Star winner.
All-Star winner is definitely going to have to be Kyle Busch.
Rowdy.
Yeah, man. Kyle fan and through, but you got to look at Kyle's stats to the All-Star race, man. He's only won one. That was the 2017, and that race was a pretty much move out of my way, or I'm going to move your ass out of the way anyway type of race for Kyle. But we had a hell of a rocket ship of a car that night. we're not the quickest in practice. I saw that we were about seventh or eighth quickest. And then on a 10-lap average, we're sitting about fourth and fifth. But, this is during the day, kind of cool temperatures, kind of not. But we all know how Rowdy is under the lights at a racetrack, man. Don't ever count Kyle Busch out in a night race, especially on a short track.
Yep.
So that's going to have to be my pick in that nice red and black Lenovo Chevrolet.
Love it. I love that pick. Shout out to Rowdy. Love watching him race. I can't pick him for the All-Star race. I got to pick my All-Star, right? I got to go with my boy Tyler Reddick. I don't think we see too much backlash from the Chris Buescher thing. I think both of those drivers, as passionate and as deep as they take.
Well, I think Tyler's already advanced to the All-Star because of the wins this season, correct?
Right. He's in the All-Star race. We're picking All-Star winner, correct?
Yes.
Right. I'm going to go with Tyler on that one. So he's already got his ticket into the race.
Well, see, to me, if I'm not saying that Buescher would, but if there's that big, and it's a big if, tonight would be the night. If I'm Chris Buescher, if I'm that guy, tonight's the night that I ruin your night.
So you ruin his chance at a big paycheck?
Yeah, because one, I'm sending you home with a wrecked race car on an exhibition race. Right. I'm not doing to you what you did to me, even though racing incident, Tyler owned up to that, just a racing incident. But if I'm Chris Buescher, you wrecked me out of a points paying race and cost me a win. So, instead of going and doing that to you, so it doesn't look so disrespectful, I'm going to cost you $1 million. Right.
I guess if I had to choose a night he was going to do it, I would choose tonight so that it doesn't affect anything moving forward. And then if something does happen between the two, does that completely squash it? Because Tyler doesn't seem like a guy that wants to keep a feud going, especially when he's got bigger dreams on the horizon right now. He's focused for 23-11 in that championship right now.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think if anything happens that Chris Buescher tonight would be the night that he squashes it. And I don't feel like he's going to flat out wreck Reddick either. Right. It'll probably be a door slam or, giving him a shot to the bumper, maybe, right before they go into the corner where he ends up slightly in the wall, but not enough to do any damage to let him know I'm done playing.
Right. And that's
like, this is your one warning. I'm done.
And that stays in Reddick's head too, because he's like, okay, is that all he's going to do? Or does that mean he is after me?
So and Chris Buescher is known to play mind games like that.
Correct. And it's a big mind game out there.
It is. But, we won't know until we roll off on Sunday at 8 o'clock.
Buckle up.
Yeah, and then we still have the heat races tomorrow.
Right.
So I guess we'll see what happens with that. Man, I'm excited. Just all-star race weekend. A Winston, the chase for $1 million. I'm excited, and hopefully, one of the most exciting things to be able to see this weekend is Kevin Harvick. Granted, he hasn't been gone but a couple months, but to see him with a different crew chief, a different car, even though it's not his, it's kind of cool. And like I said, listening to the audio, the feedback between Harvick and Cliff Daniels is completely awesome because we know Cliff is an awesome fit for Kyle.
Kevin.
Well, no, Kyle Larson as a whole. Yeah. Okay, perfect fit. Just because we can see Kyle Larson is just now barely, if he even has hit that veteran status just yet, because I think Kyle hasn't even hit his 30s.
Kyle hasn't hit his 30s, but he's definitely a veteran of the sport. Technically, in professional sports, that your 7th year is when you hit veteran.
Okay, so he's a veteran
status.
But to hear a seasoned, okay, that might be better. Kyle Larson being a veteran and Harvick being a seasoned veteran.
Correct.
Relay the information to Cliff Daniels and Cliff Daniels back to Harvick. Harvick was completely happy with that car. He said over the radio, he said, man, I wish I had some of these cars last year's to win races.
Listen, and not to discredit Cliff Daniels and Hendrick at all, but you're in a very, very high performance car on a brand new pavement. So a lot of those guys are probably really happy with their race cars. So
Oh, and I'm
to
sure,
see the communication between Kevin and Cliff be so spot on and seamless, it seems like, is really it's really cool to see, just like you're saying.
and it's cool to see because it sounds like Cliff doesn't even know that he's not talking to Larson.
Right.
He's just really relaying the information to the same person, because the information, the way that he's relaying it to Cliff Daniels, Larson does it the same way. Larson is one of those guys that can relay information so well and so much better than a lot of the guys in the field. And I feel like that's why he's winning so many races, why he's there at the top, and he is where he is. And I mean, I hate to say it, but they need to. Cliff Daniels might need to start doing the interviewing for crew chiefs for Hendrick Motorsports, because Alex Bowman right now desperately needs help.
Right.
And I'm not saying that, Greg Ives, that's crew chief still over there, correct?
Correct.
Greg Ives was a crew chief for Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Right.
But that chemistry has to be there, and if it's not, then it doesn't work. And we saw that with William Byron and Chad Knaus.
Right.
When they announced that Rudy Fugle was coming over from Kyle Busch Motorsports over to Hendrick Motorsports for William Byron, I knew before that first race that was just going to be a dangerous combination, because William was used to working down with Rudy every now and then, not on the racetrack because that was Kyle's crew chief.
Right.
But in the office, in the meetings, and Rudy is one of these guys that as soon as you relay information, you can relay it one way, and he's got different things going like this. And he's just one of those crew chiefs.
Like artificial intelligence is what his brain is for NASCAR.
Yeah, and Rudy is going to be Rudy Fugle, and I know I'm going to catch a lot of shit for this. Rudy Fugle is the next Larry McReynolds.
Okay.
The way that he can set up a car, the way that he relays and accepts information to and from his driver, and just the calm head that he's got, the way that he talks to William, and it's like, I get you're struggling. We're going to fix this. I just need you to buckle down and get after it until we can.
And trust me, and trust the process of what we're doing, right?
Yeah,
it doesn't happen overnight.
And I feel like that's why William has been so successful since the move, because with Chad Knaus, it was Jimmy and Chad just had that relationship of the inappropriate banter over the radio.
They were basically a married couple without the physical aspect of it. That's
exactly
that's what they were.
That just didn't work. That just didn't work with William Byron.
Right, correct.
So I mean, it's those things, but it's cool to see the crew chiefs being able to interact with the other drivers rather than just the one that they're assigned to and the one that they work with week in and week out, because it just shows how talented these guys really are in relaying information, getting it back out. Cliff is one of these guys that actually gets off the pit box and helps during pit stops.
Yeah.
And there's not very many pit crews or crew chiefs that get out there and off the box and do that. And the mathematics and all that stuff that run through those guys' head, how quick that comes to Cliff to be able to, okay, we're doing this. Larson can say something coming out of 4, and by the time he's down the backstretch, Cliff's like, okay, I got a solution, bring it to us.
Yep.
And it's just that quick, and there is not a whole lot of crew chiefs. I feel like Adam Stevens is one of the only other ones in the field besides Rudy Fugle and Cliff Daniels that are able to do that.
Right.
And they proved that when he was with Kyle Busch over at JGR. 2 championships and 43 wins together.
Yep.
So, I mean, but we
Jordan wanted me to update us real quick before we cut off for the weekend and everybody gets to enjoy their race weekend. Kevin, it's been a pleasure doing this show with you and today. Jordan wanted me to share this, the qualification order for the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500. And I'm just going to run through the top 10 real quick. Kyle Kirkwood will qualify first. Scott McLaughlin, Kiffin Simpson, Renus, VK, Roman Grosjean, Kyle Larson will qualify 6th.
So he will
Augustine-
definitely miss the All-Star race.
Yeah. Augustine Canapino, Calum Elot, Will Power will qualify 9th. Joseph Newgarden will qualify 10th. We've got 9 previous Indy 500 winners qualifying for this race. So, man, it's going to be exciting. I get speechless when I start talking about the Indy 500 because
Man, it's going to be
prestigious.
insane. Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's one of those races you definitely don't want to miss. And
Right.
That Sunday is going to be busy, man, because we're going to have the Indy 500, we got the Coke 600, and we got the Monaco Grand Prix.
Man,
So,
we might have to do a 4th show the week following that one just to keep up with it.
Hey, Monday, if we got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
We might have to.
But,
I'm down.
Just to give everybody an update before we get off of here, we are still under red flag conditions at North Wilkesboro. Cup qualifying or All-Star qualifying has not begun, and the pit stop challenges have not begun just yet. So if you guys are watching this, listening, you guys have that. They are actually going over the 95 All-Star race right now, where Kyle Petty put Davey Allison in the wall right over there across the start-finish line.
So I'm going to go ahead and turn that on.
Yeah, that was a good race because we all thought Dale Earnhardt was going to win that race up until he got spun right there at the end.
Right.
But man, this All-Star race weekend, I'm excited. We had a lot to talk about, and we are going to have so much more to talk about afterwards.
Yep.
But we'll get it done. And Don, it's been great. It's been a pleasure having you on the show, man. It's been awesome since you've been on, having you on the show, adding your perspective and your point of view of things. And I'm sure I can speak for Jordan on the same. I know that Chris Golden, who we had before, we're pretty sure here soon Chris is going to be able to rejoin us as a team.
Nice.
And
So
that'll
we'll
add
member?
a lot more extra flair to what we already have.
Absolutely. And he sits behind the wheel, so we'll get a lot more of that perspective from a racer's view. I love it.
Oh, yes. The dirt track racing that he does, and a little bit of late stock or asphalt late stock models that he does.
Right.
But, until Monday, guys, this is Motor Racing Podcast. Don, enjoy the rest of your night, bud.